In 1983 and 1984, I was a 20-year-old criminal justice student at West Georgia College. I didn't know that much about history, or did I really care? History didn't affect me. The here and the now, well, that's what affected me. Things that were in my face. Now, I paid attention in my high school history class as far as the broad topics, but I never really dared to delve into the meaning of what I was reading or those things that I was being tested on. So as far as I knew, Paul Revere's Ride was a poem about a midnight ride that Paul Revere took to warn the countryside and the patriots that the British were coming. I couldn't tell you where or when or what the significance was to that ride, other than when the British arrived, the colonists were ready for them and a fight broke out. That obviously the patriots won, or we wouldn't be studying it. Welcome to Keeping History on Two Wheels. If you like this video, please subscribe. It's right over here. Don't forget to hit that bell so that you'll know when we do an upload, and we do one generally every week. April 19th, 1775 marks the day that the colonial patriots were fed up with the tyrannical oppression of the English monarchy, and they began the struggle to one day govern themselves by their own consent. It also marks the day that patriotic men took a stand against gun control efforts by a tyrannical government that wanted to keep them under its thumb, and they did so with privately owned firearms. The night before, Patriot intelligence had found out that the British forces were planning to mobilize out of Boston, so Paul Revere and William Dawes were dispatched to warn the militia members that the Redcoats were indeed coming. According to Dr. Joseph Warren's source in the Redcoat Command, the regulars were en route to arrest Samuel Adams and John Hancock, even though that part of the intelligence was wrong. Why would you send 700 troops to arrest two men? That morning, 700 British regulars met 77 Patriot militia, and where they said, "Throw down your arms, ye villains, ye rebels," a redcoat officer commanded. Then the shot rang out. We still don't know who fired that famous shot heard around the world, but moments later, 8 Americans and 1 redcoat lay dead, and the die was cast. In reality, as attorney David Koppel explains, they were out to confiscate and destroy Patriot arms and gunpowder, as they were doing that throughout the colonies. King George's Redcoats were following reports that there was a sizable Patriot gunpowder cache to be seized in Concord, but it had already been moved to safety. When the British began to withdraw back to Boston, things got even worse for them. Armed Americans were swarming in from nearby towns, and they would soon outnumber the British 2-1. Although some of the Americans were in militia units, a great many fought on their own accord, taking sniper positions wherever opportunity presented itself. Only British reinforcements dispatched from Boston saved the British expedition from annihilation, and the fact that Americans started running out of ammunition and gunpowder. One British officer reported, "These fellows were generally good marksmen, and many of them used long guns made for duck shooting. On a per-shot basis, the Americans inflicted higher casualties than had the British regulars." That is American history. That is our history. Events like this one are the kind that inform the codification of the right to keep and bear arms into the Bill of Rights, i.e. the Second Amendment. Anti-gunners can try to whitewash this all they want to, and they do on a regular basis. But the history here speaks for itself, as loud and clear as a musket shot. Keeping the true history in mind, if you go back to Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's poem of Paul Revere's Ride and read it again, it takes a whole new meaning. Good old King George trying to keep the masses of troublesome colonists under his thumb and not allowing them due process, equal rights among all men, and taxation with representation, and just the common ability to pursue happiness and prosperity of their own, sent his troops to take the very thing that he knew that they could use to obtain that freedom and keep it. Their means of protection and defense, their firearms and ammunition. Those colonists didn't have those weapons just to fight off the British, oh no. They had those firearms to hunt and provide for their families, protect their families from those who would do them harm, and protect their livestock from predators. And yes, in the long run, create a new nation under God. And when the Constitution was written on September 17th, 1787, it began with the words, "We the people." And on December 15th, 1791, with the Second Amendment and part of the Bill of Rights, our forefathers were able to see that without those arms, individuals would not be safe from government of oppressive natures. And Benjamin Franklin actually knew how fragile the country would be in the future when he was asked what kind of country we have. And he replied, "A democracy if you can keep it." The Second Amendment currently is under attack in Virginia, and from a state governor that is hell-bent and determined to strip Virginians of their Second Amendment right. And the governor and a very small group of Democrat legislators are not conceding to the demands to stand down from 90% of the state's counties that are pro-Second Amendment and law-abiding citizens who would come to their aid if needed. There are plenty of instances of armed citizens coming to the aid of police officers who have found themselves on the losing ends of their jobs. Officers who are there to serve and protect us, but who in some instances find themselves in need of help of their own when their backup simply is just too far away. All you have to do to see this is do a search on YouTube for Armed Citizen Saves Cop. I will even make it easy for you and place a link in the description. I, for one, should know I was involved in one of these instances in Moultrie, Georgia on the night of July 3rd, 1997.